So first things first, who are you, what's your role, and where do you work?
I'm Andrew Hillier. I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders of a company called Densify.
What are 3 emerging Kubernetes solutions that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, I think there's definitely things like in-place resizing, which is out now, but is really important for what we do because we do resource optimization. And it's a bit of a holy grail to be able to change things without having to restart the containers. So that's definitely a big one. I think, you know, one of the trends we see is the use of AI in optimizing these environments. I think it's an interesting trend because everybody has AI here, but we feel it has to be done right. You can't just start throwing AI at it, especially at automation and things like that. You have to be very, very careful. So I think that's a big trend as well. And then, I don't know, I think things like, for us as well, just, again, it's not new, but the things like Carpenter, as they get more and more deployed, it makes it easier and easier to optimize things, I think, because when we do what we do, it just consolidates and does what it does. And it's a really nice combination. So these are the things that we like to see get out there more and more.
Many engineers initially treat resource requests and limits as static values to be set once.
Yeah.
What events or symptoms in a cluster typically force a team to realize that right-sizing is a continuous dynamic process?
Well, I think, we see this everywhere where when you analyze the resources, the utilization patterns, and then you look at the actual requests and limits that are set, they're quite wrong. And they might have been wrong from the very beginning. Because a lot of times people setting these things don't really know or have the data to know what they should be set to. It's not that they don't understand these things, it's that they haven't seen them running and have all the operational data. So we find that there's very big telltales. Like if you look at your nodes and the utilization is low, but the requests are high, you're going to be running on way too many nodes. And that says that you need to just fix that and constantly fix that because it might have been right at one point and became wrong as the workloads change. Everybody deploys a service and the replication goes up and the characteristics change as it gets adopted. And so whatever you say at the beginning is not going to be right. So you certainly can't set it once. And in our view, you have to keep adjusting it and managing those settings to make sure they track to what's actually happening. And if you don't, you're going to end up wasting a lot of money, or you get a lot of out-of-memory kills, a lot of throttling. We even in the best managed environments, we see kills and throttling because people didn't adjust the limits as the workloads grew. So those are we have visualizations that show you, here's the blinking lights where things need to be adjusted and sometimes adjusted quickly.
There's a strong debate around setting CPU limits. Some argue they are essential for preventing noisy neighbor problems, while others claim they cause unnecessary throttling. In your experience, what are the most compelling technical or administrative reasons to use or not use CPU limits in production?
Well, I think, our view is we give recommendations on CPU limits, but not all our customers take them. And it's really a choice they make. And some of our customers think, well, why bother setting them? Because why would I prematurely throttle a workload when it hits a CPU limit if it's just going to get throttled if the node runs out of CPU, which probably never happens. In most of the environments we see, there's a lot of CPU slack in these environments. So there's an argument to say, well, why bother prematurely throttling it? Now, it does create some complexity. So things like we get a lot of conversations on JVMs and how they pick up certain settings when they're started, and that might affect concurrency and things like that. So there's some arguments people make about setting limits when JVMs are involved. But in general, we're finding some of our customers just don't set them at all. And in fact, we've been asked, in our latest rev of our automation controller, we were asked to automate the unsetting of limits. And they actually want to remove them if anybody set them because they mess the environment up. And they do mess up the scheduler at a pretty microscopic level. And so there are good reasons just to remove them. You can't remove them if there are quotas set on them, but otherwise, get rid of them. That's kind of the trend that we see, but there are arguments for both ways.
For many platform teams, the ultimate goal of resource optimization is to move from manual analysis and recommendations to a fully automated, trusted system. What, in your view, is the single biggest technical or cultural barrier to achieving this closed-loop automation? What does a system need to prove before you would let it autonomously adjust the resources of your most critical applications?
Well, that's a really great question because it's really important to make sure that you don't mess the environment up. There's a do no harm angle here. And what we found is that some people or some companies have charged into automation without doing all the homework on what you need to check, and you cause outages. And one of the biggest ones we see is conflict with HPA. So you downsize something and then HPA doubles the number of replicas. And so there's a lot of interplays that you need to get right. And we've really focused on, limit ranges, checking quotas. You can blow quota if you upsize something, at the wrong time or in the wrong namespace. So there's a lot limit ranges. The maximum node size, you can increase the size of something so it's bigger than any node and you can't schedule it anymore. So that kind of stuff is really important because if you get it wrong, then you have a production outage and then nobody wants to automate again. So we think it's absolutely critical to get that right and look at all the different factors that go into it to make sure that it's safe and does no harm. And if you get there, then people get the confidence to say, okay, let's start automating everything. But as soon as you have a failure, it sets everything back. So I think it's really important to be super diligent, in the automation steps to make sure that whatever you're using checks all those things and doesn't mess things up.
Andrew, a bit of a bonus question. We're hearing a lot about AI here at KubeCon.
Yeah.
What are most people getting wrong about AI and Kubernetes?
Well, I mean, the AI I saw a sticker on somebody's laptop saying, now with AI, and probably every vendor here could have that. We think it has to be applied very carefully in the right way. And so, for example, AI, I think anybody's worked with AI knows that there's variability in how it answers. It can't always be deterministic. It kind of freestyles and does some different things. So, our approach to this is don't automate what the AI is saying. We use machine learning to deterministically figure out what to do, and that drives the automation. The AI is kind of slightly isolated from that, and it connects everything and lets you interact with it and understand it, but you don't want to automate what's coming out of an LLM because there's still too much variability in that. Even if you turn the heat way down or the temperature way down to zero, it still gives different answers sometimes. So our view is that use AI as a connective tissue to understand, so you can ask it, what are my top opportunities? What node groups have the most opportunity, and how many containers do I need to optimize, or how do I optimize GPUs? You can ask it all those questions, but it answers what's coming from the APIs from the analytics that's deterministic. And if you just point the LLM at the raw data and say, figure it out, we've seen people try that and fail because it's just too complicated to get it to give the right answer from the scratch. But if you feed it all the pre-analyzed information, then the LLM is extremely powerful for then making it happen, for enabling automation, but not doing what the LLM says, doing what the analytics say. So it's a subtlety, but we find that you don't want to just throw AI at everything and expect it to work properly. You have to apply it properly so it's safe.
What's next for you?
We've done a lot. We're at the show here. We're introducing both an AI-based chat interface into the product, which is very powerful, and also the optimization of GPUs running AI. So it's kind of AI applied to analysis and then analyzing and optimizing AI workloads. And there's a lot to do there because we're finding, for example, MIGs are becoming very important. So a lot of our customers will run AI workloads on GPUs, but they're not very efficient. And so the latest thing we're showing now is dividing up, recommending that container should be running on a quarter of an A100 or an eighth of a B200. And we actually have a cool visualization of that to say what you should be running it on. And the idea is that then we can take all that to recommend how you configure all your GPUs so that the maximum utilization and you're using as few as possible. And I think that's the big next frontier, is just automatically optimizing the infrastructure that AI runs on. So it's constantly aligned with what the workloads are doing, and you can save a ton. Again, if you have a lot of GPUs out there that are low utilization, the costs are through the roof, and you can very rapidly save millions just by dividing them up into MIGs and then scheduling them on the right MIG. So that's the big next thing for us. We're showing an early version of it here, and it's coming out in the next couple of weeks. And then we're doing more and more on the AI optimization area.
If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I think Densify.com is probably the best way. If you go there, you can spin up a free trial. You can get a lot of information. You can contact us. So that's probably the best way to reach us.